What's going on, my good people? I am back with a new episode of the Conscious Approach podcast. My name is JV Wins. This is episode number, I think, 39 of the Conscious Approach podcast. So moving along, I wanted to do sort of a quick video. It's like a hybrid societal slash cultural slash sports talk. But my good buddy Kyrie Irving was newsworthy over the weekend once again. During a post-game presser after a game with the Brooklyn Nets. For anyone who doesn't know, Kyrie Irving is a top-tier NBA player, professional basketball player, plays for the Brooklyn Nets franchise. The NBA season is winding down. The team is on its way to what is hopefully, from their standpoint, supposed to be a championship run. Got Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, all of that good stuff. So the team had a win over the course of the weekend. I forget which day it was. It was either Saturday or Sunday. And Kyrie Irving, during the post-game press conference, refused to answer basketball questions. And the reasoning that he gave as to why he refuses to answer basketball questions is because he doesn't want to. He simply feels righteous and emboldened to not have to answer questions about basketball because his higher calling for being a champion for people and for humanity and him sort of wanting to deal with greater societal issues, problems going on in the world, whether it be social justice, racism, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's currently, at a frenzy pace right now. He just believes that he is righteous in the notion that his calling is much greater than basketball, and basketball is not a priority. Therefore, he doesn't want to talk about it, even though he is making that statement within the context of him as an employee of both the Brooklyn Nets and the NBA. Now, anybody who's familiar with my previous commentary, I don't like this. I do have a problem with it. And furthermore, I'm not the biggest Kyrie Irving fan. That should come as no shock to anyone. I am not a big pro Kyrie guy. He has always struck me as somebody who feels as though he is the smartest person in the room at all times. He is one of these individuals who thinks that his level of thinking is so far beyond your level of comprehension that it is an inconvenience for him to explain himself because you just simply won't get it. And since you're one of those many people who simply don't get it, you should just step to the side and let him do what he does because you'll thank him later. That's the vibe that I've always gotten from him. He is someone who feels as though at any given moment in time, any room that he steps into, he is the smartest person in that room. And he always thinks that he is smarter than you and that you simply don't get it. And so you should just move to the side because your level of comprehension simply isn't up to snuff. You're not capable of getting what he puts across. It's a very Kanye West vibe. Fundamentally, I have a problem with the fact that he made those statements at that post-game press conference because, number one, and this is probably the biggest point, first and foremost, and I made this point previously when I did the video about Kyrie Irving, when he made the statement that he doesn't even think the NBA should go into the bubble. Before bubble play started, prior to the beginning of the NBA playoffs last year, he made the statement that the NBA shouldn't go into the bubble because he feels as though it will distract from the more important issues at hand. It'll distract from racism and police brutality and all of that stuff. George Floyd protests were still taking place. The Ahmaud Arbery tragedy had taken place recently, as well as the issue with Jacob Blake. That tragedy was on the verge of taking place. And his stance was, we don't even need to play basketball no more. Let's shut it all down so that we can make these people feel it and understand where we're coming from. And, me and my buddy, Dade De Niro G, shout out to Dade, we did a video on that subject and he and I kind of fundamentally disagreed. He said that it could be good to put a shock to the system by just putting everything to a halt. And I was on the other side saying, Well, as a professional basketball player, your greatest platform is the one that is afforded to you within the context of the NBA. So, the best possible hope that you have of getting people to listen to you is by taking advantage of those post-game press conferences to make your voice heard in whatever regard you want your voice to be heard. And by electing not to do so, you're sacrificing that opportunity to have people listen to you on the largest stage possible, given your place as a professional basketball player. Now, Dave disagreed. He said, blow it all up, shut it all down. I said, take advantage of the platform. We agree to disagree. No big deal. It is what it is. However, I am still of the mindset that that is the case. So when you, as a professional basketball player, decide that at a post-game press conference, within the context of you as a professional basketball player, you're going to refuse to answer questions about basketball, you're going at it the completely wrong way. And you're alienating people who could be potential allies for you in your quest for a world utopia, as you see it in your own eyes. When you refuse to answer basketball questions, you're letting the world know that you don't care about fulfilling your obligations as an NBA employee, obligations that you're contractually obligated to. People are going to be hard pressed to listen to you because most of the people in this world, people who don't own a fraction of the income that you gain an entire year for their entire lives, are going to thumb their nose up to you and not listen to you because they have to go to work tomorrow. Most of these working class people out here who you feel don't get where you're coming from because their level of comprehension is so far below yours, these people, despite what cause that they feel an affinity towards contributing to, despite where their heart is in terms of social justice issues and things going on in the world at large, you have a lot of convicted people in the world, Kyrie Irving, and a lot of these convicted people who have the courage of their convictions, the same as you, have to put on their boots tomorrow and go to work. And they have to fulfill their obligations as an employee. And so when you thumb your nose up, at all of those people who would otherwise be allies to you in your righteous cause, you're sending a message that you're just simply at an elite level, that they don't have the wisdom, the financial wherewithal, or the backbone to sit side by side with you on that particular issue. You're alienating a ton of people who would otherwise be allies to you in this cause. And you're not being fair to those people who comprehend you, man. Contrary to what you may think, man, people understand what you're saying, okay? There's a lot of smart people in the world and they get where you're coming from. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. Just because you're answering questions during a post-game press conference about basketball, which is your job, doesn't mean that people have an inability to separate the causes that you're convicted with from the fact that you're a professional basketball player who's contractually obligated to do a job. Okay. And furthermore, and I can't stress this enough, people who are convicted in their causes have to go to work the next day. You get to play basketball and you'll make enough money. You'll make more money in one season than most people, 95% of the population, will ever make in a lifetime. So it does you a disservice to besmirch those people by suggesting that you don't owe them a post-game press conference about basketball when that's your job and you're financially obligated to do so. I think that this is the wrong approach. And what I want to caution people about is following in these footsteps, because it's the wrong it's just the wrong move to make from a strategic standpoint. If you have a obligation towards your employer, whether you are in the corporate boardroom, whether you work in a kitchen at a franchise restaurant, there is always an opportunity to use those platforms that are afforded to you, big or small as they may be, as your personal bully pulpit. But to ignore those opportunities is to do your cause a complete and utter disservice. No one is going to listen to Kyrie Irving more than when he is in front of a camera talking to the media about basketball. So, bro, answer your basketball questions. But then once you're done answering your basketball questions, take 5 to 10 minutes to talk about all of the things that you got going on. Take 5 to 10 minutes to talk about the causes that you're righteous and convicted in. Take that time to talk about that. You got ESPN, you got Fox, you got NBC Sports, Yahoo, you got Google, you got Huffington Post, you got all of these media outlets sitting there with a phone and a microphone and a camera in front of your face after these basketball games. And you can use that opportunity to bring light to whatever it is that you want to bring light to, as opposed to alienating them and becoming an elitist, by a social elitist at that, by saying, I don't want to talk about basketball at all. So unless you want to talk to me about the things that I want to talk about, even though we are sitting here within the context of my profession as a basketball player, I have nothing to offer you. It's the wrong move to make. And if anybody out there wants to follow in these footsteps, I caution you against that, because it's the wrong move to make. Okay, if you are affected emotionally by something that took place in the world at large and you want to bring light to it, but you know that you have a presentation to make to a potential constituency or a potential customer base in the morning, and you know you have to be on point and ready for that, unfortunately, you do not have the levity that a person like Kyrie Irving has to walk into that boardroom in the morning and say, hey, man, I don't want to give this presentation, even though this can make my company millions of dollars, and my fellow teammates within my company are counting on me for my contribution. I'm not feeling it. So I don't even want to do this presentation. I want to walk out of this room right now, unless you guys want to sit here and listen to me wax poetically about about all of the causes that I am convicted in and the things that I want to talk about. Even though I'm sitting here in this boardroom, and this boardroom is the boardroom that is owned by the company that pays me a paycheck. So I'm not doing this at home, right? I'm not doing this at the basketball court at the Y. I'm not at some public forum. I'm doing this within the confines of my employer, where I am obligated as an employee to fulfill my employer, to fulfill my duties, my obligations as an employee. Unfortunately for most of us, as I was saying, we don't have that levity. We can't walk into the boardroom and say, I don't want to do this today, and I'm gonna walk out of here. But I'm willing to stay so long as you'll listen to the things that I want to talk about. $1 million deals, we can do that another time. This is more important to me. No, you have to be strategic in the way that you go about doing these things. And I caution you against following the footsteps of somebody like Kyrie Irving, who is not always the smartest person in the room, although he may think that he is. You got to be careful with this stuff. We're all convicted and we all care about various issues, but don't besmirch potential allies by thumbing your nose up at them because you feel as though you're emboldened to the point where you can ignore your obligations as an employee. He's contractually obligated to talk to the media. And I know everybody, especially the media, backs these guys up because they're all about this player empowerment BS. But let me explain something to you about player empowerment. Player empowerment has, made it, the notion of it has given headway to professional athletes in a lot of positive ways, but not everything works to the betterment of everyone, players included. It's also contributed in players taking some steps back. And when you can walk into a post-game press conference and say that I don't want to do this, and you know that tomorrow on Around the Horn and the rest of these shows, you're going to be backed by the, hyper liberal social justice contingent of the media who's going to defend whatever you do no matter what. And they're going to defend your right to not fulfill your obligations as an employee. What you have is one big mess. And you have a lot of people who are going to turn their ears off when it comes to Kyrie Irving, the Brooklyn Nets, and the NBA at large. NBA ratings are down this year. And it isn't purely because of social justice causes. It's because a lot of these NBA players, these pro athletes, and some of these entertainers too, they've taken it upon themselves to use the current social justice climate in the world to their advantage to sort of be empowered to not fulfill their obligations contractually as NBA players. And I don't think that that's the right move to make. We're all convicted, but we all got a job to do. Compartmentalize it and take advantage of your platform. Don't thumb your nose up at the opportunity to have the most amount of people possible listen to you. And, when I saw him say what he said during that post-game press conference, I wasn't shocked because it's him, but it was nevertheless disappointing. And, we got to stop encouraging this stuff. Stop following behind these guys as if they know everything. Okay, he's an articulate dude and he's smart and intelligent. That don't mean he know everything, right? To quote the words of Jay-Z, because of in where Kufi, it don't mean that he bright. All right, and he doesn't have all the answers. He doesn't know everything, and this was a bad look. This is a bad look, in my opinion. Um, you know, he doesn't have anybody around him who's going to make him walk stuff like this back. And at this point, he is so entrenched in his ideology, he's going to continue to stand firm in his ground that he doesn't need to fulfill any obligation, no matter how contractually obligated he is to do so. So I think the responsibility is on the public to sort of take what he says with a grain of salt, appreciate the spirit of it, and just kind of go forth in the world doing what you can as an individual to bring light to certain issues that you want to bring light to, but not fulfilling your obligations as an employee. And I don't even like to use the word employee, because I myself aspire one day to not have to work for anyone ever again. And the very notion of someone being an employee is something that I, over the years, have found to be disenchanting. But nevertheless, Kyrie Irving is an employee of the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA. And when you sign on that dotted line, you need to fulfill those obligations, bro. You'll gain many more allies in your quest for righteousness when you don't alienate those folks and you fulfill your obligations, but strategically employ your rhetoric in ways that will align yourself with others who can be allies for you. At least that's just my 2 cents. That's kind of how I see this whole situation. I think it was the wrong move. Player empowerment, man, is good. These NBA players, man, it must be nice to be able to show up to work and say, all I have to do is play basketball, not fulfill the rest of my obligations, and walk out the door. And to hell with you if you don't like it, I don't care, because I'm the NBA player and I'm empowered. The rest of us aren't so lucky. If I showed up to my job tomorrow on the day of an important meeting with a potential client who can bring a lot of revenue to my organization, which can trickle down and bring revenue into my pocket, and I decided that this is just not something that I'm feeling like doing because there are bigger things going on in the world, there would be consequences for that. But there's no consequences for NBA players because, the media, in concert with the NBA in certain respects, has emboldened them to essentially run amok and do whatever they want because they will not be held to account for those types of decisions. So, the main thing that I want to say is, to people out there who follow guys like Kyrie Irving, compartmentalize these messages and take them with a grain of salt. We're all convicted in our causes. We need to be strategic about how we want to go about implementing our personal places within the changes that we are seeking within our society and the world at large. Fulfill your obligations, people. Fulfill your obligations. When you don't do that, in the moment, it might give you some sort of cathartic pleasure to be able to say, to hell with you. I don't care if you don't like the fact that I don't want to fulfill these obligations because I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm righteous in my cause and I believe in it. Therefore, if you don't like it, I don't care. But in the long run, you're alienating potential allies, and no cause, righteous as it may be, can be attained without allies. You need allies. You need people who are willing to fight with you on the front lines and on behalf of you. And you do yourself a disservice in that regard when you show up to work and you say, I'm not going to work and I don't care what you have to say about it. So, and Kyrie, bro, like, you're smart. I don't know Kyrie Irving personally. I don't know you at all personally, Kyrie. But you're a smart guy. I appreciate your candor, and I certainly appreciate how convicted you are in these things because I do sense that your heart is in the right place. But be careful about getting so entrenched in your own ideology that you feel as though you can thumb your nose up at certain basic principles that afford you respect and adoration with people both close to you and people who are a bit separated from you but can still observe your moves in the general public. And when you do things like not fulfill your basic obligations as an NBA employee, to talk to the media for 10 minutes about basketball when you're a basketball player, that's exactly what you're doing. You're turning a lot of people away. And I know you don't care about that because you think, well, let them go. If they don't get it, that's on them. But in the long run, that change that you seek, if you continue down that path, it's going to take a lot longer for that change to be attained than it would have otherwise if you had just been a little more strategic and accommodating. But, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Kyrie, you're not the smartest person in the room. People get you. I hear you speak and I comprehend, bro. I promise. I comprehend what you're saying. You're not so smart that I can't comprehend where you're coming from. And there's a lot of other people as well who can perfectly comprehend where you're coming from. So get up off your high horse and be a little more accommodating. Okay, we all need to do that. We need to do a better job of that, especially a lot of you professional athletes and entertainers, because unfortunately, the mouthpiece of Black people, specifically in this country, still moves at the behest of what pro athletes and entertainers have to say. So knowing that, you need to do a little better about being accommodating, because there's a whole lot of people out here who would love to have the platform that you have as a pro athlete, and they don't. They can simply do what they can as individuals, wake up in the morning, and go to work the next day. So you should do the same. Stop trying to do the very best that you can to not appeal to those whom you believe should be listening to you most. So that's about it, man. Good luck to you, Kyrie. That's my 2 cents. I think people shouldn't follow in that path. Go to work, fulfill your obligation, and be strategic in how you implement your righteous causes. But that's just me. And who am I, right? I'm just a little content creator trying to make my way in the world. If you like the commentary in this video, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, like the page, comment, hit the share button, comment wherever you're seeing the video. I don't care. Let me know whether I'm crazy, you think I'm stupid, you think my opinion is wrong. It's all good. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of your dissenting opinions. It actually gives me fuel. Very much the way this video would probably give someone like Kyrie Irving fuel. So in that regard, we're kind of on the same page there. You can follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. I'm also on Facebook, JVISOGDEN. You can find me on Twitter, search JVWins, and follow the Conscious Approach page on Instagram as well at ConApproach, CONAPPROACH. Let's be more strategic, people, man. We got a long way to go, but if we are a bit more thoughtful in how we make these moves, I think that change can come a lot quicker than you might anticipate otherwise. But that's just me. So that'll do it for now. Be sure to, interact, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, as I just said. But otherwise, that is episode number 39 of the Conscious Approach podcast in the books. I hope everybody is having a great day, a great life, a great week, vacation, month, year, wherever you at. And until next time, I'll see you later. Peace.